Hey everyone, it's Justin, and if you guys didn't know, I've been grinding trying to get every single strategist to Lord status. It started off as a joke, but I've actually been able to do that, and so I have every strategist to Lord now. Unfortunately, there's going to be another strategist coming up really soon, and that kind of throws a whole wrench in my plans, and I thought I was going to be able to relax, but I'll probably end up getting Ultron to Lord as well. But anyway, I decided to make this video to kind of showcase to you which of these characters kind of took the longest to get to Lord and who was the easiest, as well as just showcasing some of the rewards you get for achieving Lord with each character. Kicking off the list at number 8, we're going to start with Invisible Woman. Now, although I have about 28 hours played on her, it took me about 26 hours to get her to Lord. She's not really my favorite healer. She's kind of a heal bot playstyle in my eyes. So with her challenge of getting 120 KOs, it just took quite a bit of time, but it is fun to push people off the edge with her push ability. And blocking 25,000 damage with her Guardian Shield also takes a little bit of time as well, just because it doesn't have that much health. So it took me the longest to get her to Lord. Plus, she's not the most fun character, at least in my eyes. Now, going over her rewards, her KO prompt is okay. I like the blue, but it's kind of a little too simple for me personally. I don't really care for the Fantastic Four logo, or the seismic waves, or the force field push. And her Lord icon is kind of at a weird angle, like on her forehead. I guess it looks okay, but it's definitely not my favorite. Now, moving on to our number 7, we have Adam Warlock. Now, Adam is one of my personal favorite healers just because of how much damage he does, but I can tell that he is definitely not going to be for a lot of people. I have Adam at 35.9 hours currently, but it took me about 25 hours to actually get him to Lord. The main things that kind of made him take as long as he did was the fact that he has a reach 54,000 healing. For me personally, it was a little bit hard to reach that considering a lot of his healing is basically on cooldowns and whatnot. But to make up for that, he only has to achieve 100 KOs and assists, which isn't that bad considering he does a lot of damage. Now, his final challenge is to revive 25 allies with Karmic Revival. This isn't that hard to do, and you could probably speed up the process, but you have to be careful about rezzing your teammates in bad locations. Now, going over his rewards, starting off with his KO prompt. Personally, I really don't like it. I'm not a big fan of yellow. It has those circles and this electric effect coming off, but it's just not really for me personally, and I don't really care for his little logo in the middle. But his Lord icon I think is really cool. I love the gold effect and the pose. And for me, I think it's one of the best in this list. At number 6, we have the character that started off my grind, which is Rocket. Now, I currently have 94.6 hours on Rocket, and I'd love to get that to 100 hours, but it took me about 24 hours to get him to Lord. Looking at his challenges, the 120 KOs isn't that hard either, mainly because you're constantly firing off group heals as well as doing a lot of damage with his minigun. But reviving 30 allies with his Be Right Back is a little bit of a hassle, mainly because of the cooldown. But other than that, he's still a fun character to play. It just takes a little bit of time, at least for me, to get him to Lord. Looking at his rewards, starting with his KO prompt, it's not my personal favorite, but I still think it's pretty good. I'm just not a big fan of orange, and I wish there was a little bit more going on. Now, going over his Lord icon, this one is one of my favorites. I think it's cool. He's got the nice smile, and he's got some light coming off of his hair. Overall, one of my favorite Lord icons. Going to number 5, we have Luna Snow. I have about 25.1 hours played on her, but it took me about 23 or 24 hours to get her to Lord, roughly around that time. For me, she's just a little bit more boring to play, but reaching her 60,000 healing isn't that hard. The KOs, 120 KOs and assists also isn't that bad, especially because she does decent damage. The main problem that I had that made me take a little bit longer with her was the fact that you have to freeze 20 enemies with absolute zero, and I must say that that's a little bit harder for me. So I think that's also another reason why it took a little bit longer. Her KO prompt is actually one of my favorites. Again, I really like blue, so this one's kind of right up my alley. Her logo is in the middle is pretty nice, and then I just love the little icicle effect that's shooting through as well. And then her Lord icon, I think it's one of the better ones. I like that it's got that snowflake on the corner there, and then on top of that she's giving a wink with a little heart from her fingers, so that one is up there. Going to number 4, we have Loki. Now, currently I have Loki at 23.3 hours, but it took me about 22.5 hours to get him to Lord. He's actually one of my favorite healers to play just because he combines a lot of what I like in terms of healing and then damage. So reaching the 54,000 healing isn't that hard, neither is the 120 KOs and assists. And the conjuring of 180 illusions isn't that bad, especially considering my playstyle. I would drop a lot of clones every chance I got. Now going over his rewards here, starting with his KO prompt, this one again is one of my favorites. I'm not the biggest fan of green, but this green is actually not that bad, and I love the hint of purple with the snake scales, I want to say that it is, or just these diamonds. It kind of gives this luxury-esque kind of feel to it, and his Lord icon, for me, isn't my favorite. I don't like his headdress, but I do think that the green aura coming off of him is cool. The look on his face just shows he's kind of crazy, but again, his headdress just kind of kills it for me. At number 3, I have Jeff the Shark. Now, it took me about 22 hours to actually get Jeff to Lord, which is pretty fast. Reaching the 54,000 healing was actually really easy. This was the fastest challenge for me to finish with him. The 100 KOs and assists isn't that bad, especially because Jeff does enough damage, and you can get a Luna on your team for that team up where you get those ice shards that you can shoot out, which does a lot of damage. And then his final challenge is to swallow 20 heroes, and that actually didn't take that long. Another fun fact is that you can swallow allies as well, and it will count towards the challenge. I want to say that that's another reason why he was so fast to get to Lord. Now, looking at his rewards, starting with his KO prompt, I will say that this one is pretty cool. I really like the light blue. I like the little wave effect, but I will say Namor's wave effect is a little bit cooler. That it also has Jeff's like spitballs coming off of the edges, so it's up there in terms of KO prompts. His Lord icon is pretty nice. I think it's fun, it's cute, but it's practically the same image, just flipped compared to his normal icon, so that kind of loses some points in my eyes. At number 2, we have Cloak and Dagger. Now, Cloak and Dagger, I have about 23.5 hours, but it took me about 18 to 20 hours to get him to Lord. Reaching the 54,000 healing isn't that hard, especially just using Dagger. She's basically an auto aim, so you can get this done pretty quickly. Their final challenge is to use the Terror Cape to score hits on 45 heroes, which isn't that hard to do considering it goes through multiple enemies, and that also helps with your KOs and assists. Now, rewards, looking at their KO prompt, this is by far my favorite KO prompt in the entire game next to Venom. It has that cool black aura coming off the edges with the daggers flying through as well. I think it looks so clean. And then their Lord icon, I would say, is up there for me. I think it looks pretty neat. I like the colors. Finally, the hero that took the least amount of time for me to get to Lord is none other than Mantis. I currently have 19.2 hours on Mantis, but it only took me 15 hours to actually get her to Lord. Now, the challenge that gave me the most difficulty was her reach 54,000 healing. Her heals are pretty slow, so it just kind of took a lot of time to actually get that challenge done over and over again. But achieving 130 KOs and assists wasn't that bad, especially if you're damage boosting teammates and just getting kills on your own. And sedating 25 enemies with your Spore Slumber was really, really easy, mainly because it's not hard to land that compared to Luna's Freeze. Now, looking at her rewards, her KO prompt is actually one of my favorites. It has these like little leaves with the little wind blowing by. I think that's pretty cool. Her logo in the middle isn't my favorite, honestly, but again, I think the leaves mainly just make this and tie this together. Her Lord icon is, I think, one of my favorites as well, mainly because I just like the pose and it has a nice light green effect as well. Well, that's about it for this video, guys. Hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, please drop a like down below. Let me know if there's anyone else you want to see me get Lord with, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.